All right, so good morning, everyone, to the Truckee River Flood Management Authority Technical Advisory Committee. Today, Friday, September 26, 2025. The time is now 10:02, and I would like to ask for a roll call and establishment of the quorum.
Okay. Janelle Thomas,
Here.
Chris Bronzik, Trina Magoon. I saw her join, so I'm going to mark her as present. Okay, perfect. Mary Horvath,
Here.
John Simpson,
Here.
Rob Beadart, Ashley Elson,
Here.
Amber Sosa,
Here.
Donnie Gilman, Kathy Canfield,
Good morning, I'm here.
Donna Noel, Amira Amaro,
Here.
Zachary Carter,
Present.
Chris Fritzen. All right, you have a quorum.
Thank you so much. We'll close item 1 and move on to item 2, public comment. During this comment period, any person is invited to comment on any topic, regardless of whether it is listed on the agenda or not. Action may not be taken on any matter raised during this public comment period until the agenda item is opened or the matter is specifically listed on a future agenda. Those who wish to comment on an item that has been listed on this agenda may, if they prefer, comment when that item has been opened for consideration by the board and before action is taken. Comment must be made as described above and is limited to 3 minutes per person. Is there any public comment from the group?
I don't have any public comment.
If somebody does, please just
Raise
do
your
the raise
hand.
hand thing so we can tell.
Yeah. Okay, seeing none, we will close item 2 and move on to item 3, approval of the TAC agenda for Friday, September 26, 2025. And this is for action. I am open to taking any edits or a motion.
I move to approve the agenda.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trina. I have a motion and a second from Mary and from Trina. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Okay, sounds like that was approved unanimously. All right, so item number 4, discussion and possible action to approve the draft minutes of the Friday, August 29th, 2025 TAC meeting. Did we receive those, Marty? Oh, you're muted.
Yes, I did send those out.
Okay,
I sent them out the week before.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Do any members have comments or edits or a motion?
I motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you, Mary. I have a motion.
I'll second Ashley Elson.
Ashley is a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Say nay. Okay, we'll close that with approval. Item number 5, announcements. George Robeson, you have the floor.
The only announcement I really want to dwell on, besides the things that we're covering, is our network of precipitation gauges is advancing. I believe we have 6 up now. They're new, and we have a new network. And so hopefully by the winter storm season, we're actually going to have that in operation. So we will probably be rolling this out to you in a future TAC meeting. We also still, I'm not forgetting about anybody, but we still intend to talk to you, Kathy, and Sparks. We intend to talk to you about a couple of your gauges that may not be in current great shape about just helping you take over those and provide that data to the National Weather Service. So we're still on that, but Matt is been working on all these gauges, and he has to take it one at a time. So that's still going very well, and really pleased with some of our initial data and the accuracy of it. So anyways, so that's about the only comment I really want to make today.
Okay, Kathy, you have your hand raised.
Yes, thank you, George. And that's a project that I'm going to be working on over the winter time with some gauges and weather service, weather stations and such. So the timing's appropriate coming up. So thank you.
All right. Item number 6, presentation and discussion of the status of the Rock-McCarran design project, including a discussion of the alternative nature park plan and hybrid nature park / recreation complex plan designs, the status of the design process, and public comments that have been received regarding those designs. There will also be discussion regarding the Wednesday, September 24th, 2025 working group meeting, possible action to recommend the nature park plan or the hybrid nature park / recreation complex plan, or some combination thereof, to the TRFMA board of directors for approval, or to provide other directions to staff. This is for possible action, and George, you have the floor.
All right, thank you. I'm going to go ahead and share screen here, and it should come up. Do you see a title slide on your screen? Yes. Okay, great. That title, that is for, the fact that we have an open meeting here and we want to discuss all possibilities. And I also wanted to give the committee broad latitude to input if they want to prior to the board meeting that we're going to have. That doesn't mean you have to input into this, but we just wanted to give that discretion so that we can have a ranging talk and have input, if you want to give input to staff and all that, that it's all in there and we're not surprising somebody that we did that in this meeting. So that doesn't require you to do that, but we did want to give that option if the talks go that way, and like one of you says, hey, we want this, or this needs to we need to deal with this and things like that. So anyways, with that, I'm going to go ahead and start on this. This is the title slide from the working group from 2 days ago. And most of what I'm going to do is work off the actual working group that we just had. I think we previously talked about the public comment. We are well over 250 public comments. There is great comments about, making sure that we take care of things like the wildlife, especially the bats, but also bird life, also native vegetation, also the aquatic species involved. So there's great comments there. There's been many people come and talk to us about the field shortage and the fact that this is an opportunity to make up some of that shortage. And this is a massive need in the community right now, and kids are not getting the opportunities that they might get in other communities and things like that. So we've had many comments along those lines as well. We've had comments about water pollution and making sure whatever we do, we adequately buffer, we adequately do things right so that we're not adding any kind of pollution into the Truckee River. Access to the river is another comment that we've received a lot of those. Any of these comments I just mentioned, I can literally say there are dozens for each of those comments. If not, one of them maybe well over 100. So that just shows that there has been a lot of public participation by very passionate and knowledgeable people. And when we do the board meeting, we will actually have a summary of all the comments that have been made since the McKinley Arts Center, which was in March. And so we've had so many people weigh in on this, and it's really been helpful. And just wanted to mention that right off the bat, even though I'm not going to break down a slide and try to do this all at this meeting, because I think we did this in a previous meeting for probably the biggest work group that had about 228 comments, written comments generated from that working group alone. And those were written email comments, let alone all the other verbal comments. So anyways, we've been having a lot of input on this. And this particular working group, we really wanted to focus on making sure that we are tied to the vision of what is going on with the community in the past, and how this park ties back to past efforts of doing things about, like, what does the public really want here? Because we have excess acreage, and we are using this upper terrace is a detention basin, but it can have more uses than just providing for flood storage. So that was a big thing about that. The second thing about this working group is we presented costs and the kind of costs that are involved in doing these extra recreational things. And we actually did kind of, if we built out everything with both options, what does it look like between the two options? And I'm going to just say this right off the bat. These costs that I'm going to show you initially are the costs for everything. And that doesn't mean that the board will approve everything, but they probably should start off designing everything so that we have that in our designs and in our abilities to cope with things in whatever option they choose. So with all that, I'm going to start the slide get into these slides a little bit. Sorry about the big introduction there. So, this is a slide about all the public meetings we had. We shared this at the working group, and you can just see there several working groups, McKinley Arts Center. We've had these TAC meetings. These are technically public meetings. I saw a number of the members of the public today, for instance, in this meeting. So we've had a lot of public input on this, and it's been great, like I said. And we will have further public input at the 30% and at the 60% as well. So the big thing about there's a draft vision and cost analysis at the 15% that the Wood Rogers is primarily doing as part of the consulting team. And one of the things that we talked about in developing this draft is to tie that back to the Truckee River Conceptual Recreation Master Plan 2011. And the reason why is that culminated years of public input in and of itself regarding the Living River Plan, regarding what we later called the locally preferred plan, and things of that nature. And we wanted to make sure that we were not like just going off on our own and not tying back to that. In addition, because it's been 14 years since that plan came out, we wanted to make sure that we took into account the changes in community needs and community opinions about recreation that have happened over the last 14 years. And for instance, the population's grown by 150,000. The fact is that no large regional parks have been constructed since Golden Eagle in 2008. And in the 2023 City of Reno Parks Master Plan, which is a more current master plan, they indicated in that plan a 45 flat field deficit. They also indicated that access to the Truckee River was a continuing need. So this park actually, with various options, addresses the access to Truckee River with either option, and with our sports complex option actually goes after that flat field deficit as well. So this is why we are putting forth these options, is to line up with these past plans. And we wanted to make sure that the public was aware that's what we're doing. We're trying to mesh with what has been stated in the past about these things. So in the plans, they have safe and convenient access to the river as a need. They have multi-use trail systems. They have gathering spaces for outdoor events, turf fields for outdoor sports, and in some of that in the past, that was baseball fields as well as flat fields. Learn about the Truckee River was another need that was in our past stuff in the 2011, and provide support infrastructure for the new recreational facilities. That means like bathrooms, trails, parking, things of that nature, so that you're not just coming in there and it's underserved and you can't really enjoy the facility. So the park concepts, if you look at how they meet each of these things, they both meet everything but two, and the recreation complex option meets all of them. And the only two that are not met by the nature park is the flat field aspect, the recreation fields, and the playground area, because there was no hard playground area in the nature park concept. So these things are meeting a lot of the needs as laid out in the 15% design. So one of the things that we looked at, and I thought that there was a, well, anyways, I think there is in the next slide, but I want you to look very carefully at this cross section across here. This is it through here, and it shows all the different things that go on in this cross section. This is nearly a half a mile cross section through here, and it's not a straight line, but along this half mile, this is what you see. You see two side channels, a main channel, and a big sports complex, two levees, intermediate berm, and this goes all the way to Mill Street out here. So that's what's going on here along this cross section, and it just shows the immensity of this park. I believe the next slide has this. So you start to see a lot of this, the main channel, the secondary channels, all these riparian buffer zones and forests and wetlands space. Then you have the large recreation space across there, and then finally the south levee on the south end. And to give an idea of what this looks like, and I hope this works, we'll see how it goes. Let me bring it over here. I'm going to have to bring this over real fast. Okay, there we go. Hopefully you're seeing this. You can see as it goes across, but one of the nice things, and I'll stop it if I have to, but as you're going across, you might see trees and people that kind of give you the scale of this. And it just keeps going and going and going. And here we are at the main channel right here, a little kayaker. And I love all the white fish in there. Truckee River, it has white fish in it, but not very many anymore. But that would be awesome if it was populated with that many whitefish, because that would be an indicator of a good ecosystem for aquatic species. And they're also native to the Truckee River, but there was like tons of whitefish in there. And you can see these are the sports fields with all the people on them for scale. Just keeps on going and going and going, because it's a large area. I mean, hundreds and hundreds of feet. Then you've got the South Levee, and there's Mill Street right there. So it really gives you an idea of what you're getting there with this. And we showed this at the meeting, and I think this will also help our board understand the immensity of this area in this park. You know, it's 168 acres. And so there's just a lot of things going on in that park area, and as well as all the flood mitigation that's going on in there as well. So the nature park option, we spent a lot of time on the slides going through the detail of how it meets every need. And this is just the summary slide of all the recreational experiences. It has the river access. It even has 3 points to put in and take out kayaks or canoes or whatever. Then it has points of where trails get in close to the river. It has the trail system. Either option would have this, but the nature park has additional trails additional areas for perhaps educational things about nature, about the bats, about other things. So this park has more trail, but both options have considerable trail and considerable nature experience. And then you come to the Nature Park and Recreation Complex. You can see the same access areas in the river section, but here there's not as much trail. There's more of a robust road system. There's more parking. There's more development. These fields are laid out. There's 11 of them. 10 of them are full size. So you can see how it has a lot of stuff stuffed in there. There's an actual playground, linear park in this area here. So both options have a nature experience. Obviously, this one, the nature experience is somewhat cut off more at the upper end here, at the lower south end. And then we go into more of a active sports complex type recreational experience. So now we get to the costs. And as we get to the costs, we have the nature park option, and for full build out of everything. And I want to emphasize that it's a full build out. And the reason there's a range there is because of contingency, $15 to $17 million, I believe. And then the nature park and recreation complex is 26 to 29 million. And then the estimation cost difference is around 11.5 million. But I want to be very careful here because this is full build out. And so when you pull up, and we didn't do this with the public at the meeting because we all felt like that would just be too much too soon. But with this group, I need to pull us up and go, this is a series of line items. Everything was, there's a quantity, a unit cost, a number of units, and a total cost for everything. Under this, there's a pedestrian river bridge that we have marked out as an estimated $3.5 million. That's probably reasonable since we just did a Wadsworth bridge that was similar for $2.5 million. This might be a little more troublesome because it might be a slightly longer. It may, we're just putting some padding on this compared to what we did at Wadsworth. And then here, you also should see that we have the 10-foot wide asphalt multi-use on there. That is 1.7 million. And that would be done regardless of recreation because that's part of our levee construction to put a hard surface on the top of the levee. So on the crest, you're going to have a hard surface anyways. So this one, if you take this off, because this was going to happen anyways, and you take this one off the bridge, the actual cost of this river corridor extra stuff is $341,000. So you can go from 5.6 million down to 341,000 in a hurry here. And you could even phase in the bridge later. It's not that you won't do the bridge, but maybe you don't do it right away because we need that money for other flood projects or something like that. The other thing that it allows people, if we have it designed, they can say, a community member could say, hey, I want to sponsor this bridge, and it'll be the XYZ Corp Truckee River Adventure Bridge, or something like that. So that gives the public a chance to participate in the park as well. And that is not a fantasy. I was very much involved up in Boise with some of this stuff, and some of the benefactors in that area really stepped up to support that park. In fact, one benefactor probably put in more money than the city did for all the park activities. I mean, really stepped up to make sure that that park was going to be, special and had a lot of amenities. So now when you get to the concept one, and both of them have the river with it. So there's a line item for river here, the 5.6 million. And you see it's all these different items on the nature park. And note that the elevated walkway and the step spillway are optional. And so that cost could reduce to 4.4 million and change. And the river total can be reduced to 341,000. That reduces the overall cost to less than 8 million extra costs for the nature park option. So once again, though, I think that I'm going to push, one of my recommendations to the board is going to be, unless you guys tell me I'm crazy here today, is to recommend that they design for everything, but as we go to higher levels of design and into construction, we can make the decision to pull back things like the bridge and the elevated walkway, the step spillway gathering. Okay, now finally we got the basically this is the full-on sports complex park. And here's all the different items in the sports complex park. And you can see down here, a bottom line is $28 million. And you go, oh my gosh, $28 million. And some people on my board, after they have their heart attack, they will go, how are we going to afford all this? And that is a concern. But if you, understand that the river course corridor is being reduced by $5.3 million because of the bridge and the fact that we're asphalting the levees anyways. If you realize that lighting can be reduced, this has lighting on every sports field. If you realize that the fields can be seeded versus turf, these are spec'd out as turf, roll-on turf fields. If you say the playground can be phased to later, these savings can put this well under $20 million. So now you still have that $11.5 million difference, but it's an 8.5 million versus, or an 8 million somewhat under 8 million and somewhat under 20 million, probably about 11.5 million still, but a reduced cost on this. With getting almost 90% of the functionality out of this. I mean, you didn't have the playground, maybe some of the fields weren't lit, but then again, it allows people to step in. What if somebody says, no, I want all the fields lit, we'll provide for that. No, I want roll-on turf, we'll pay the difference. That allows the community to come in if we design for the full thing and then back off later. So that's how I'm going to approach it with this. Like I said, I'm open to criticism and be able to like back off or whatever, but I think we have to start with these numbers and back it off rather than just have a very Spartan design and then try to add stuff later that we didn't even cost out. So with that, this is the last slide of this. The operation and maintenance costs for this have not been determined. Historically, a recreation complex with fields like that have leagues and tournaments have the potential to be more self-sustaining for O&M. And please note that the O&M includes not only upkeep of grass fields for recreation complex flat fields and infrastructure such as bathrooms or ramadas and trails, but it also has to look at the upkeep along the river, the terraces and the levees and berms. There's going to be upkeep involved with that as well. We had a comment about beavers, and beavers are great. They do a lot of wonderful things, but they also do some destructive things sometimes. And so we're going to have to work around nature here. And overall, it's probably cheaper to maintain with nature than against nature, but there's still a cost there of maintaining the vegetation properly, not getting too much vegetation that messes up the roughness, which would cause it to flood at a lower flooding level, like maybe actually get over the levees because there's so much roughness in there that we haven't managed. So the O&M includes a lot of different things. And finally, the O&M approach will vary with who will own and control the area going forward. It will also vary with which option is chosen. That yet has not been determined. We have been really working hard with Reno to make sure whatever we do could be compatible with what they might want. We have also talked with others. I can't get into all the talks because some of them are private, but we've talked with other people like, how would we do this? And so we're still working on that. That is something that ultimately will be decided by our board and by other entities like a city or a county or another entity as well, or other entities as well. So the idea here is that we have to come up with an O&M approach. For one thing, our current rules do not allow us to even do maintenance longer term. You know, we can do a kind of a free to grow, get it started maintenance, but once we're at that stage, we don't actually have, we have statutorily in Nevada statute, our founding documents don't allow us to do maintenance. So we'd have to get a legislative fix for us to do it. And also, we need to have money to do it. If we spend all our money building this, we may not have enough money left over for for maintenance, not recreation, but maintenance in general. So we have to like factor all that in. So that is not solved by a 15% conceptual design, but it is a consideration that's out there and it will continue to be out there throughout this design. So with that, that's my last slide, and I'll open this up for discussion and questions among the TAC. I'd like to hear what the TAC has to say about this.
And it looks like Mary has her hand raised. Go ahead, Mary.
Okay, go ahead, Mary.
Yeah, a couple things for the maintenance. So one is that it seems like with the fields, the sports complex option, like you said, it's going to be somewhat self-sustaining. Also, I think that the abatement of homeless encampments is going to be a lot less challenging with that option. And I don't know how, it would be great if we could quantify that somehow, but I know you guys are doing it right now there, and it will have to be done in either option, but it just seems like the sports complex, because it's going to have such a higher daily use of the facilities, it's going to be a lot easier. So I don't know how that gets factored into.
Yeah, and that's hard to quantify, but it's real, because one of the reasons, you know, we own that whole property except for that one in-holding. And we have allowed Ferrari Farms to keep farming there and have their pumpkin patch and have their summer dance and all these different things that they do there. And the reason why is they keep up the fencing, but they also, them being there, that activity allows us to better patrol and understand what's going on in the area. Likewise, we also have another farmer named Avanzino who does the same thing. He keeps up the fencing, helps us with those activities. And we also are working, Green Vibe is working with us, and in probably the worst area for that, because of their activity and what they do and what they're really just trying to restore the area and make it a better area overall. That has really curtailed a lot of the homeless encampment problem, because that homeless encampment problem brings a lot of trash into the area, pollutes the river, and creates a lot of problems. So we've seen that firsthand. I just don't know, you know, I can't like go, here's my analytics on it, but I know for a fact that that's true. Okay. And nobody can convince me otherwise. There's just no way. And whenever we left something alone, it would just, you know, there was just whatever, the second law of thermodynamics came in, you know. I mean, that seems what happens. So I think that's a valid point on that. And we will have to carry that point. I certainly don't disagree with that at all. So yeah, that's a true thing, and that's a strong pro for the sports fields, among other pros. And you know, both of them have pros and cons, but that is a strong pro to do something and do it rather quickly after we do it, so we have a way of funding our maintenance, and then also we have a way, you know, we have something going on there that kind of holds down that you know, randomness that starts to happen when you don't have activity in there. So anyways, thank you. That's a good comment.
Okay, Trina, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of like a way to quantify that. You know, there's river rangers that a certain amount of money is spent on per year to, you know, be active in this area. You've got Green Vibe that you're spending a certain amount of time. You've got Ferrari Farms and the other sort of active management of areas. And maybe if you removed those, you could multiply what you're spending now by the additional area. I don't know, you know, maybe there's a way to sort of quantify, but I think I mean, I think we all know it's real. It's just the ability to quantify it.
Yeah, and sometimes it's okay to just say something is real
Yeah.
and it's very
Certainly.
real. It's hard to quantify, but if you don't do this, it's going to really create a problem.
Right.
You
And to
can
that point of, if the flood project can't provide maintenance, you know, I don't know that we have to estimate a cost, but that cost will have to be borne by someone, and who that is yet to be determined. But just making sure that that is a cost consideration in the overall consideration.
Yeah, and going to the legislature for a legislative fix to founding legislation is no slam dunk. You know, it's not, everybody thinks, well, that's kind of obvious and that will just go right through. When you go into legislature with all the priorities and the busyness and everything else, things can get left behind. And so you can't guarantee that. And you could go 2 years without any maintenance. You know, it's like, so we got to be very, you know, we'll have, as this goes along, we will definitely be, you know, having to consider this, although it really, you know, we're not supposed to solve this at 15% conceptual design, but it is a concern that we have to carry forward continually.
I don't think you need to, obviously it's something to be solved in the future, but it's certainly, as this goes to the board for a decision, it is a piece of the decision.
Absolutely. Any other comments from the TAC?
I was also gonna say, like, you're gonna have to maintain all the levees, so that it's not just this park. It's, I mean, that levees are gonna have to be inspected and maintained.
Right.
So
right. When we look at our strategic plan, we have to leave some money in the operating budget, not put it all to bonds or loans, so that there is some money left for that sort of maintenance area. So we have to estimate that level of maintenance and put some money in. The other problem is, though, we have to get a legislative fix. It's really weird that we didn't have that in our legislation, like we'd build something and then not maintain it. Maybe that isn't weird, actually. I've been in this for 40 years and that actually isn't weird, but it shouldn't be. I'll just say it that way. So maintenance is not often thought through when you build things sometimes. So anyways, that is true. And we probably have to go to the legislature one way or the other. But it will be helpful if we don't have the burden of, you know, doing maintenance on a recreational complex or a huge nature park versus just going along the river and making sure that we're managing the woody debris and the vegetation such that we don't get too much roughness and we lose our conveyance. Any other? Oh, we've got more. Mike, am I going too far with this?
Yeah.
Well,
I was going to go to Mike
no.
next.
I just wanted to, you know, not to speak out of turn or anything, but I just wanted to note that the statutory limitation is based on when something was added to the 377B plan. So the levees and flood walls along this stretch of river have been in the plan prior to 2000.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, good.
So
good.
we can use our income stream for maintenance in that situation. However, the recreation facilities were added later, like in 2009, so it can't. It's just kind of this, for our purposes, kind of arbitrary date of when it got on the list. Vista Narrows is a little bit of a challenge because it was added later. So, you know, maintenance is anticipated for most of the flood elements. Recreation is going to be a unique problem.
Okay.
Thank you. And Trina, you have your hand raised.
Thank you, Michael, for that. That was really kind of where I was going in my mind, is that it was my understanding that the flood project could maintain flood project elements And then what is a flood project element, right? As you said, whatever's in the 277B. But I think that that's probably another discussion point for the board, is to understand what is and what isn't, because the long-term maintenance of, it doesn't matter if it's Vista Narrows or the recreation components of this or the levees, it needs to be considered in the long term, because none of the entities, Reno, Sparks, Washoe County, have a budget to maintain these areas once, you know, it's built. So it's a consideration that I think needs to be daylighted, that this needs to be vetted and it needs to be figured out.
Yeah, and then another thing that I'll say this, hopefully I don't get my hand slapped here, but, and I'm sorry about that. I got a little confused because Vista is not, we can't do maintenance at Vista, but Mike's right. We can do Vista at Rock-McCarran or any of these other further upstream ones, because they were in earlier for the elements. But the other thing I was going to say is that longer term, I mean, there's been a talk about us being the kind of the steward below Glendale Bridge. Right now, that's the state. And the state doesn't have a lot of resources for that. And if we build a bunch of structure all the way down to Vista, then, you know, we might be the ones that are kind of the stewards of that at that point, because we have to maintain our own conveyance that we've created. So anyways, that's just something that is also out there that may have to be looked at in the future. Okay, any other questions?
Yeah, sorry, I have another one. So can you maybe, Michael, provide us with what is in the 277B and what is not?
377.
377B, correct? Just so we can wrap our brains around that.
Yeah, well, the 377B plan is on our website. It's kind of a lot. It was last amended about 2 years ago. So it's been updated, but I think just in general terms, the plan as it was originally designed mentioned levee and flood wall along the Truckee River to Vista Narrows. So pretty much, you know, anything through the Truckee Meadows is going to be okay as far as maintenance is concerned. What happened is in, I believe it was 2006, the legislature went through and added a bunch of elements that could be added to a flood project, finally defined it more clearly. And in doing that, set this arbitrary timeline of anything that was in the plan is, you know, you can do maintenance, and anything after that you cannot. And one of those specifically was recreation. And so I think for our purposes, Vista Narrows is a problem and recreation is a problem. I think most other elements are probably fine for maintenance purposes.
Well, for Reno, they might want to know that the area that we're working on with them on Riverside was just recently added to the 377B. So that might be outside as well.
That may well be outside as well, yes.
I linked that in the chat.
Thank you. I guess I thought that the recreation components were a part of the original design.
Well, apparently they didn't think so because they added them later. There is just what there is there was a comment, you know, the original 377B plan, there's a sentence that doesn't identify it as an element that says recreation facilities may be added. And that was it. So later in, I believe it was 2009-ish, they added specifically the recreational component as a 377B plan element.
The 2006 legislation specifically excluded recreation. I guess I guess my point.
So
If you could,
here's
like,
the
give us a
thing.
timeline of how this happened. I don't really understand.
So the three dates, we have the original one in 1998, 1999, in that time frame. And it doesn't specifically say recreational elements. It's just a mention that recreation elements might be added to this. In 2006, the legislature finally got around to defining what a flood project was. And as part of that, it added, you know, along with several other things, recreational elements. The ICA also mentions recreational elements. And then in 2009, they amended the 377B plan to specifically say, for the first time, recreational elements. And so in 2006, apparently everyone believed that recreation wasn't a 377B element because they added it later. And that's what takes it out of the statute. Now,
Wouldn't that just be a misunderstanding of what was and what wasn't in there? I guess that's interpretation, right? That could be
that's interpretation.
challenged.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure a
You know?
judge would tell us, that's a possibility, I think, but that's
I'm just-
the problem is if you add something later, it's kind of assumed you didn't intend it at the first time. That's just kind of one of those interpretive canons that you have in the law. Is there an argument to be made that it pre-exists that? Sure, but I don't know what your odds of winning that are. So, and with that, we're probably wandering a little off the agenda.
Sure. But I think these are important considerations for the board to understand, because
Of course.
in Reno, we have this problem all the time. Go build a thing, but we don't necessarily build in the maintenance. So this maintenance consideration is just a huge ongoing problem for all the communities, that we don't have a thing is built, it's handed to the city of Reno or to the city of Sparks or to Washoe County, and then we don't have a funding mechanism to maintain the thing. And then, the world gets upset because things are dilapidated and we don't have the funding. So I'm just saying it's a big consideration to make sure that the board is
the board actually got a real big piece of this about 2 years ago when we were talking about Riverside. We did talk about the fact that what was in the plan, what was not in the plan, and maintenance and all that. So they, as recently as 2 years ago, they got a big dose of this. And the board is largely the same people. So yeah, they'll need to be reminded of this, but this is not a new topic to them.
understood, but reminded is always the key when we're talking about electeds who have a million things going on.
Right.
And so does the nature, park component of this design, does that fall under recreation or something else that, could be contemplated as being under the jurisdiction of TRFMA?
The things that I'm going to address this first. The things that are such as like the vegetation and things like that in the area, which are for for stability and flood control and things like that, would be under ours, would not be recreation. But when you start adding things like river access and trails,
Right.
or facilities like bathrooms or other things, those would not fall under that. Those would be recreational. And Mike, you can correct
And the
me if
flat
you wish.
fields and things
Yeah,
like that.
well, yeah, but you were specifically talking about nature park type thing.
Yeah, if we were going to do if we were going to recommend pursuit of the combined, recreation nature area component of the design, I was just curious as to how that would fall in.
Yeah, and I think that something that needs to be said is in the future, we may pursue changing. I think the easiest way, instead of going to a trial or to a judge to get an interpretation, is actually just go to the legislature and get it fixed. So
Yeah.
with that, I don't think there would be any opposition to getting it fixed at some point.
Mhm.
What I would say though is for where we're at now at 15%, one option, one of the pros of that sports field complex combined option is it's more likely to be self-sustaining on maintenance. And I've heard that from Nathan as well. I've heard that from other people as well. That doesn't mean that the nature park, it's impossible to be self-sustaining, but it's very difficult to get the continual funding for self-sustainment of something that has that kind of use. So I mean, that is a consideration. That is a big consideration on this.
Are there additional hands raised? Zach?
Good morning and thank you. Yeah, I think get back to questions I had previously about buffer widths, but there's a number of papers out there that suggest recommended minimum riparian buffer widths for nutrient, sediment, pesticide absorption to prevent discharge of these pollutants and potential impairments. And considering this change in land use and possible increase in fertilizer and pesticide application directly adjacent to the Truckee, how has either of these options considered these buffer width recommendations from more of a water quality perspective? And is there a hybrid option that prioritizes a minimum buffer width throughout the park?
That's a great suggestion because if you look on the west side, let me, are we still on screen? I'm going to
Yeah.
show you something here real quick. If you look at this right here, and can you guys see my
Yes.
okay, you look at fields 9 and 10, especially field 10. Look at how close you are to the main channel right there. If you look here, that's literally hundreds of feet. And we've got a berm there as well. So we're going to have a way of draining and disposing and getting infiltration and all those kind of things here. But over here, there's not much distance. So that might be like maybe you do fields, but maybe you don't get field 10 because of how close it's getting to the river right there. So could be a consideration. Also here, once again, you can see how wide it gets right here. That seems okay, but this one, that's pretty close. So you see what I mean? There could be, as we get into the design, even if you said we want the recreation complex, as you get into a design and you go into this and you start doing all the calculations for the drainage, for fertilizer. And by the way, the land use here is agricultural, so there is already a kind of a disposition of fertilizer because Ferrari uses fertilizer. Okay, so that's not new, but there are things that are new, like we are putting in, and the other thing to remember too is, yeah, we got hard surfaces here, but we've got right now on Edison a bunch of hard surfaces. So what you just said isn't totally true. Parts of this are industrial, parts of this are agricultural. Parts of this, the net hard surface would be less after we build this, even with all this going on. Because with Edison and everything else, the fact that in the past we had the Catholic Charities site here, Bristlecone, and we had a gym, and there's a paved road through here right now. So please understand that we are not adding a bunch of new development here. On net, we're actually decreasing the amount of developed land. So that's one thing, Zach. But the other thing, though, I think you have a point there with 10. I'm not sure how that's going to all work out for us when we start to do our calculations. So even if we say 11 fields, it may end up only being 10 fields because of this, So we just have to work through that and design, make sure we do everything correctly to meet all the standards. Does that help? I hope yeah.
That does help. I was specifically looking in that area that you called out there, going from, basically 9 to 10, that lighter shade of green gets pretty narrow. And so I was just thinking through there, that whole minimum buffer width recommendation could be a helpful consideration. And then, on top of that, I was also wondering if NDOW was consulted in the consideration for minimum riparian buffer widths to support wildlife habitat and migration corridors and stuff like that. So just considerations, I guess, for moving.
Yeah, and remember too, where we are now, we're in an industrial area and much of this, and then we're in an agricultural farm area for most of this. So it's like we're not in a forested wildland area, with Forest Service buffers or something like that. We're in We're in the middle of a
urban
city.
area.
So we're trying to
no,
improve the situation, but we're not going back to, you know, I used to be the forest hydrologist for Oregon. We're not going back to a wildland situation. So anyways, yeah, we're trying to improve it, but and it will be less developed than it was before. That's something that I keep hearing, and I'm like, there is a ton of development on here already, and a lot of this is going to get tore up and moved out. And that's probably on us for not communicating that as well. But that is a good
just
point.
think too that you don't get many opportunities to change the landscape in this way. So trying to get it right the first
Yeah,
time.
and the other thing too, Zach, another consideration that we really don't talk about a lot is because we're moving the river down, currently, this is the river right here, right? Right where this orange is, and this is the river right here, right where the orange is. You see buildings. There's a small levee berm-like structure here. It's not a certified levee, but you're really, really close to these buildings. What we've done is move the river away from these buildings. And so we're actually improving the situation on this north side almost uniformly across the whole length. There are some exceptions, but most of it, like 80% or more, is actually being moved away from the development. So there's that too. And that's another thing we didn't really communicate well throughout this process, but that is a reality when you're looking at those sorts of things, those non-point source pollution issues. So, but yeah, just because we would say a sports complex and we have 11 fields now, it may be, 10 fields or 9 fields. I think the 8 are safe. I think they can be done, but like this one, especially this one, I just don't know about. And if we did this one this way, we could do things with this road to get it backed off more too. So there's just a lot of things to consider there.
Yeah, I think another
Absolutely.
unique element of this project is that, the buffer widths have to do with direct runoff, and none of the fields will have direct runoff into the river corridor. And so we're going to use low impact development and bioswales, and then on, larger storms, they'll go into like some stormwater treatment in certain instances when the storms get big enough. So I think there'll be no direct runoff into the river for most storms.
And that's one of the reasons we like the intermediate berm as well. If we're doing a recreational complex, we like we had a C1 option with no berm, and then we had a C2 that had a berm, and at the end, or it had actually a levee, but at the end of the day, now we have a berm there instead of a levee, but it still does the same function of kind of blocking that. So only during the very highest events would it ever even have any water cycle through there and get back into the river. That'd be, once every 100 years, once every 50 years or more. So that's the other aspect of this. But when he says bioswales and all these things, we have to have room for those, and we might lose a field. That I will say that. But it would still be a recreation complex if we go that option.
Hey, Trina?
Oh, I still have my hand up. Thank you.
Oh,
I was just gonna actually reiterate a whole bunch of what George and Shane just said, that there's not a real direct connect with the intermediate berm of the flat fields to the river. I was gonna ask George what the distance is between field 10 and the river, even though there's an intermediate berm and it would drain the other way. And then again, I think through the environmental permitting, you're gonna have to look at existing uses and existing functions and water quality issues with existing conditions, and then compare that to proposed. And I think on net, you're going to find a big benefit of how this is laid out.
It's massively different and better. And like I said, the north side is going to be way better as well. That's one of the reasons we're moving the river is right now it's way too close to those buildings, so yeah. Any other questions?
Yeah, Mary, you have your hand raised.
A couple comments. One is that also with the overall flood project, I mean, think about how much flooding we're going to be prohibiting or avoiding and all the water quality benefits of that. I mean,
Yeah.
floods are
Yeah, that's
horrible
something
for water
I've
quality.
been very vocal about. Amira's newer, but with the tribe, I've been very vocal about that one of the biggest benefits of fixing this and not having water go through the industrial areas in the airport is we won't have a water with a bunch of chemicals going down to a terminal lake.
Right.
And that's one of the biggest things that I saw, right when I got hired in 2019. I was like, one of the biggest things, if we do this right, we can really help with that issue, because you do not want some of these complex chemicals that are in industrial areas getting into a terminal lake. That lake just doesn't have the size of an ocean to dilute that kind of stuff. So that's been something that's on my mind, regardless of what the requirements are. So, anyways, is there anything else before I would like to ask if you guys want to make a recommendation on this, one way or the
Oh,
other.
can I just make one more comment about those 9 and 10? If that area, if those fields can't be utilized, I would love to see some of the gardening elements that are in the nature park alternative put in there. I know that's something that what Rogers is considering right now. I would really support that.
Okay. Well, like I said, I don't know that. I mean, we may keep 10. It's just that, like I said, it gets so close that you wonder. And there needs to be areas for bioswales, and we're really filling up the area. So I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm just saying that might happen because I'm looking at, there's a lot of space there and I'm not sure, kind of thing. Um, so with that, if there's not any other questions, I think we should have a discussion of whether this body wants to recommend anything or give direction to us on anything about this, where we're at with this, because the public interest on this has been immense.
Don't forget the public comment period.
Oh, right.
That'll be at the end before
Okay.
we actually vote on anything.
If the chair would like to allow Nathan requested to make a statement.
Yeah. Go ahead, Nathan.
Thank you. And I don't know if it's appropriate. These are kind of, I guess, questions, but also some comments. Is there value kind of going to that last slide, George? And I don't know if this is the presentation just for TAC. Wasn't clear if this is for TAC, or are you going to factor this in, or how you're going to present to the board? But is there value in, from the two models, explaining or at least sharing who you view, maybe not even who, but that there are potential partners for each concept, right? Like, I think I've not been unclear. If there's not fields and there's not recreation components, it would not be of interest for me as a Parks and Recreation Director to maintain this on behalf of TRFMA or on behalf of the city, just because of the fiscal challenges. I think the county would share that from a Parks and Rec side. There's just not a resource level that we could bring in to take on the nature component if it's all nature and there's no opportunity to recover. So I didn't know if there are people on the other side who are like, hey, build it nature and we'd be interested, versus the recreation side. So just a comment on that side, if there'd be value there. I did think Trina made a pretty good point about, the feeling and the truth that we know of the homeless issues that would likely occur at a higher level because of that. I do think is evident in the resources that you've put forward. So I do think that's a good way to kind of show that, not necessarily quantify exactly, but show that we have spent money to address these issues, which I think you said too as well. So last couple I had, and maybe this is a question offline, but the field 10 impact, I wanted to make sure I understood. This was from an environmental quality, water quality concern. It wasn't like a wildlife buffer concern, correct? Did I have that right? On the field 10 potentially impacting the quality?
It was that there wasn't enough space maybe to do all the bioswales and everything that we might
Okay.
need to do. And that actually is the closest field to the river, so that might be the sacrifice. And,
Okay,
and
I
did you
just
hear the word might? We have to calculate.
yeah, oh yeah. No, I was just
Yeah.
trying to make sure I understood
Yeah.
if it was water quality or wildlife. So anyway, and then the last question I had, if we could go back to the one slide with the map, and thank you for the time.
one?
So just on the north bank, I was just curious, and it can be something maybe we can talk about offline, but as it's north of the river now, from a jurisdictional component, you know, I would have assumed that if it's Sparks on the north side prior to this shift, and I don't know how, again, out of my depth, but if we're providing trail access, and let's just say this becomes a Reno Park, if we're adding trail access into this park from the Sparks side, just some thought to how jurisdictional access and management would work if it's a Reno Park, but there's Spark access points. Not opposed to it, just curious about it, I guess, if that makes sense.
I think there has to be if it's not a regional park like through the county or something, there'd have to be some Sparks participation, because one of the trails is coming off of Glendale Park right now.
Right.
If you look at that slide there. So
Right.
the
Yep.
north side, you know, would remain. And if you look at this is the boundary, the current boundary between the
Right.
cities, right? Is where this
Right.
river is now. See that? So this
Right.
area right here is actually right now Sparks, all this trail here. And this trail here would also be Sparks. So I would imagine, and Sparks has been very, very vocal that they want this to be a levee, and they want this to be paved, and they want to maintain the bike system, or the trail, the Reno, not Reno, but the Pyramid Tahoe Trail. So that's all a given, and we're doing all that. And so
Okay.
so they are involved. It's just that they're not down here with the sports complex versus the nature park down here, but they are definitely going to have some involvement up here.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And it's not like we're pretending they're not in the room. I mean, we've got people from Sparks in the room right now.
Oh no, that was just a question for me. I didn't know if that had been thought out, how that works. It sounds like it has. I was just curious, does changing the alignment change
That I don't
responsibility?
know.
Yeah.
If we change the city, you know, if we're actually going to change the boundaries because the river alignment changed, or are we just going to keep the same with the old channel? And these are still side channels, so I mean, you know, it could still be the city limit here. I don't know.
Just curious. I hadn't thought about it before, so I just thought I'd bring it up. So anyway, that's it. Thank
Okay.
you for the time, Chair, and George. Thanks for the answers.
Any other public comment?
I don't have any.
Okay.
Oh, Joe?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Your full name for the record, Joe? Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, thank you. My name is Joe Meacham. I live here in Reno, Nevada. Long-time citizen. And I just have a couple of observations and comments that I want to share, being that this is the technical group. But before I get going, I want to just say that compliment what do you guys call it? The TRFMA, thank you. TRFMA staff, I just want to tell you, I've been listening in since your first presentation in March at the school. And at this present time, I want to compliment you by saying that you feel like a freight train sometimes. And I want to tell you to keep going, don't stop. And just from the bottom of my heart, I really sincerely mean that. Secondly, I am also thrilled with the Tumworth board. I can't get that out of my mouth. The TRFMA board. They last month or the month before showed a willingness to continue to explore options and explore valuation and look at priorities and save money. I am thrilled with Mr. Robeson's presentations Wednesday to the working group and today to you, the TAC. And I just want to tell you, I support both options, no matter what is recommended. And further, with respect to river alignment, I know you're not talking about that today, but I support either option because the evidence of the detail and the work is there. And I'm not questioning their whether or not they should be done. But with that being said, and having such a willing board to continue to explore options, I would ask from more of a technical and process aspect, is 15% design the time to start thinking about things like, what if we get delayed in permitting for 10 or 15 or 20 years? And so I would call that maybe contingency planning. And then the second type of study would be maybe a sensitivity study to the alternative about moving the river. Should we lose permits? What else are we going to do? Is there another way to save the purchase of those buildings? And so that's a lot. I put a lot on the table. They're both technical questions, and I'm just eager to hear thoughts and discussion, but otherwise very complimentary to both staff and to especially to the board for their willingness to allow such exploration. That's all I got.
Thank you for your public comment, Joe.
Any other public comment?
I see no other public comments.
Okay, so we'll close public comment and bring it back to the committee for discussion and or a motion. Trina, I see your hand raised.
Thank you, Janelle. I am wondering what you're looking for at this point. Are you looking for a TAC recommendation on one alternative or another? Are you looking for a recommendation to forward this presentation to the board? Will staff, TRFMA staff, be recommending one alternative or another? Like what are we being asked of right now?
Okay, since that's directed, I think, to me, what I'm looking for is there an appetite with the TAC, the Technical Advisory Committee, to push one alternative over another, or have like something that both these alternatives are viable or not viable, you know, like anything like that, and that, you know, just something. I don't know what your appetite is. Like you could literally say, look, we like the nature option so much more than the other one, and this is what we recommend to you. Or we like the recreation complex option because of these facts, and this is what we recommend as a course of action in general. You know, I mean, obviously we talked about things like maybe we lose a field because of, you know, runoff issues or something else. But in general, we want the fields, you know, or not, you know. So I'm trying to get your appetite, you know, and a lot of people are being silent right now. And I'm just wondering, where are we at with this? You know, what is your feelings on this? I've heard loud and clear from the public on both sides. Where's your appetite? Go ahead, Mike.
And maybe just in response to Trina's question, I think that, you know, in 2 weeks, we're going to be asking our board of directors to give us some direction as we move forward towards the design. So the way our agenda is drafted today is we are looking for some direction. I don't know that we necessarily want to move forward with designing on both options to the 30%. Is that correct, George?
No, that would be very cost prohibitive. What we're looking for is a direction, because once we pick one of these, the way we do drainage, the way we do transportation, it's all very intense. And so if you try to do both, it's going to really destroy our costs. And I don't think we need to wait on this. I think we have enough information. We have enough community input to come down on one side or the other on this.
Right. So I guess with that statement, what we're looking for is, you know, some sort of motion and vote that you're recommending to the board of directors that we move forward with either an all nature design or a combined design, including a recreation complex. So yeah, and if you cannot come to a consensus, then it would even be useful to see which side the votes go on so that we can recommend that to the board of directors.
Trina?
Yes, Janelle, do you have since there was just another public meeting this week, do you have a tally of community support for nature versus nature plus recreation?
What we have, the biggest thing that we have is that when we did a real tally at the meeting, a previous working group, we had 228 comments. And I believe that if you look at the comments and where they say, they'll usually say something like, we really like this project, we really care about the river, but we need these fields. You know, they would say something like that. Or they would say, you know, we like fields and all, but man, don't do this so close to the river. So based on that sort of, you know, those sort of replies, it was, I believe it was, wasn't it like 56 to 44%, Marty, or something in that range, that there were 56% of the comments saying we really need the sports complex, and 44% were saying it would be better if we not do that here near the river.
I can bring up that report if you give me just a moment here.
Okay. But that's 228 comments. That's the vast majority of our comments. We're still receiving comments, and we had oral comments even this last Wednesday, which kind of broke down, I would say, the same way. It seems to be that proportion, you know, anywhere from 55 to 60% for fields. But these are, remember, this is not the whole public either. These are people that are engaged, passionate, and informed. So it's a subset of the public.
Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and
Yeah.
share my screen
Oh,
if you'd like. Okay. Let's see. So, here is the report. Now, this report is on the recreation concepts presented at the 7/30/25 meeting. It's essentially, this is the first meeting that we came out and presented recreation concepts more fully, which is why we held this big public comment period. We have received public comments outside of this on other meetings, but this is the recreation summary. Okay. So as you can see, there were 228 comments total for this period, with 99 comments broadly in favor of a nature park. 121 comments were broadly in favor of a nature park combined with a recreation complex, and 8 comments presented as broadly neutral or did not take a strong stance in favor or against either option, but asked questions and added comments on other matters. There is a summary breakdown. I won't get too into it for the sake of time, but if you would like me to, I can.
I think this is really helpful. Thank you, Marty.
Yeah.
You know, and I attended at least a portion of the workshop earlier this week, and it did appear that it was uniformly supported for both options. You know, I thought it was, you know, there were a lot of support for the recreational components as well as the nature components. I find myself kind of leaning into the, you know, the recreation with the nature being secondary, nature park being secondary. But you know, I'd like to hear what the other TAC members feel as well.
Hi, everybody. It's this Ashley, with City Sparks. I'm very much in line with what Janelle just stated in the recreation being the primary with the secondary as the nature park. I think near and dear to my heart with my kids kind of the way we are in our family and the community that we kind of run our circles in with sports and kids, is these flat field spaces they're very hard to get a hold of. And I think adding some of them to the community is going to be very beneficial for up and coming youth. So that's where my stance is on everything.
Thanks, Ashley. Trina?
I would say from Reno's perspective, we would recommend the nature plus recreation, given the region's need for flat fields, and consideration of our interest in managing it only if it included the recreation fields per our parks director that you heard a bit ago. I think it also provides an opportunity to mitigate some of the homeless encampments with activation. I think we can mitigate water quality impacts, and it provides a buffer to the existing industrial area in the region. So for that, I would say Reno would recommend that. I'd love to hear other TAC members' opinions on that. And if not, I would be willing to make a motion.
All right. Thank you, Trina.
I guess I would add that it's also consistent with the master planning in the region for the last 20 years.
Agreed. Yeah.
Okay,
Any
so as the tribal representative, of course, as George stated, our biggest concern is potential pollution from runoff, fertilizer, irrigation, vehicles, whatever it is. So as long as the plan, whichever you go with, addresses that, and there's no significant influx of any sort of pollution, then we would support either option. So whether that means taking out a field or doing just the nature, and then somehow, dealing with the potential pollution from homeless encampments or whatever. It doesn't necessarily matter to us either way, since we're not members of the Reno community. But yeah, just being the downstream recipient of everything, we just really want to make sure that pollution is addressed.
Thank you. Any other comments from TAC members? Kathy, go ahead.
Sure. Well, I find all of this very interesting, and even though as being part of this really doesn't impact anything with Story County as far as the use of the land. But what I would, my opinion of all this is, I like the idea of the area being developed, or developed as in nature or the parks for the most amount of people to be able to use it or appreciate it. So I'm willing to go with whatever the TAC decides. Is, like I said, this really isn't something that's a Story County issue so much, but and I agree with everybody's comments, but I do like the idea of having something that the entire community can benefit from, personally, as far as being able to have access to the site and what their needs are.
Thank you, Kathy. Okay, last chance for any TAC members to add in. Otherwise, I will probably pass it to Trina, since she volunteered a sample motion.
Okay, let's see how this works out for me. So I am motion to recommend to the TRFMA board the recreation plus nature elements as the recommended design to move forward into 30% design. Probably could have said that more eloquently.
Nope, that was perfect.
Yeah, works for me. Do I have a second?
I'll second Ashley Elson.
Okay, thank you, Ashley. Any further comment? Okay, can we do a roll call vote on that motion, Murdy?
Yes. So just a moment.
Mhm.
I've got too many things open.
Yeah.
Okay. So, for the roll call vote, Janelle Thomas.
Aye.
Okay. Chris Bronzik. Did he
He's
pop
not
off the
on.
meeting? Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's absent.
Trina Magoon,
Aye.
Mary Horvath,
Aye.
John Simpson.
John Simpson's an alternate.
So I can't vote on this one
Yeah.
since I'm
Yes.
alternate.
Okay. Ashley Elson,
Aye.
Amber Sosa.
Aye.
Also, never mind.
Oh,
Is Amber appearing today as a alternate?
Amber is an alternate.
I can do it either way. I was either appearing in place of Rob Bedart, or if you
Oh,
don't.
Rob is not here,
As
then-
an alternate.
No,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I
She
thought
can
Rob.
vote.
It's the
Yeah.
first time I've done one of these with the
Okay,
Sorry
team.
about
aye.
that, Amber.
Yep, all good. No, thank you for checking.
Okay. Kathy Canfield,
Aye.
Amira Amaro,
Aye.
Zachary Carter.
Aye.
Am I missing anyone who's here?
I don't think so.
Okay, you have a unanimous approval.
Thank you so much. All right. So, sorry to complicate that.
No worries.
With the roll call vote. So we will close item number 6 and move on to item number 7, which is presentation and discussion of the scheduling of the strategic plan of the Truckee River Flood Management Project, including discussion of moving forward with contracts for the design of project elements, including Vista Narrows final design and design for other project elements that have not yet been initiated. Possible action to give directions to staff. And this is for possible action by George Robeson. You have the floor.
All right, I think you should see a construction zone on your screen. If that's going on, then we're in good shape, right?
Yes,
Okay,
you're good.
great, okay. So on this one, I'm hating to put this so much stuff on you today, but it's more, I'm leaning on you for input and decisions a lot more today, less informational stuff. And what we have here is, you know, we have a plan, we have a strategic plan, we have a CIP, and a big part of our CIP, the vast majority of our strategic plan for our funding, what we're going to do with all the money we have, is to build the Meadows Flood Project. And on this slide right here, you can see all the components from Vista Narrows to the Colonies Levee flood wall that's already done. And right now, if we look at this, let me see what I got on the next slide. No, I want to go back. So on this, you can see all these different components. Vista Narrows, we're up to a 65% design on this. The North Levee terracing, there's been very little design work on this. There was a conceptual design done by the Corps, which was virtually all flood wall in the past. And then this lower part, there was some levee and flood wall design as part of the original Vista Narrows design that we did back in 2018-19. So that's the only design work that's been ever done on this. The Rock-McCarran project, we're currently in design heading for 30%. As you all know now, the airport levee has had a conceptual design on it in the past with the Corps. It was actually somewhat of a levee. Now we're talking about a berm because the airport does not want an obstruction at the end of the runway. Very understandable. So we've modified that somewhat, but we haven't gone far with the design. The Tumwa levee, now it's a levee and flood wall. That previously was, I think, all flood wall with the Corps design. And we're trying to add levee in where we can. Some places it's just too tight and we have a flood wall. But that design really has not been forwarded much more than just concept. 5%. I mean, this is 5%. This is 5%. I don't even know if this one here is 5%. This one here, the GSR berm levee, actually GSR is working with consultants right now. Some of them are on this presentation here, and they're looking at building a levee along here. So that's another area, and that's something that we've tried to participate. I mean, I'm sorry, that's risk levee. This is GSR. And that's something that they're working on, and we want to make sure that we are cooperating with them and helping them and not being a hindrance to what they're trying to do, because they have development plans for a basketball stadium, a new tower, a parking garage, and an area for housing some of their employees over in this area. So they're talking about doing a lot of investment there, and we want to be a good partner for them and help them. But in the meantime, also get the flood control that we need there, not only for their sakes, but that's an area that gets down to the airport and gets into some of this industrial area as well. So what the history of this is and what the problem is the permitting since about 2020, when we decided that we really weren't going to work with the Corps, has been permitting. Permitting has been critical path for years now. It was initiated, we started on this in late 2019. We put in for permitting materials and application in May of 2020. They originally said, look, we had levees and flood wall in there for our VISTA plan, for the VISTA permitting. And they said, look, it would take on the order of 10 years if we did those levees and flood walls, because they conflict with our NED plan, which is about, at that point, was about a 10% conceptual plan, little more than a crayon drawing. But they were pretty adamant about that. So to prevent this, we resubmitted the materials only doing the terracing portion of the project for Vista now. The TRFMA board in 2021 voted to work to deauthorize the actual Truckee River project, and also formally rejected the Corps NED plan. So in the future, this wouldn't come up with us with these other elements of our designs. The next step was there have been two major issues. Authorization, that it's an authorized project, and we were messing with their NED plan, and then also tribal concerns, which are totally legitimate. From the inception of me being hired, and especially starting in October 2019, I've worked with the tribe, and we really got together and figured out what we wanted to do for mitigation. And we have a agreement, a mitigation projects agreement. And we also got this project deauthorized. Both of these came in late 2024 and early 2025. Since all that, the permitting people have been a little more responsive, but it's very slow and it lacks urgency, and they seem unaccountable for taking years to even look at our application, aspects of our application review tasks. So that's our current situation. This has been critical path for us, but the Corps seems very lackadaisical about doing anything about it, although they have been a little more responsive since we were deauthorized. So this is what's going on. Previously, we assumed we'd wait to initiate designs until we had Vista Narrow permits. The UAs, the Corps 404 and 408 permits were applied for in May of 2020. Since then, we've done the mitigation projects agreement and deauthorized. Now, we still have the Corps being slow with permitting. And now GSR has started grading, and is proposing to build a levee in the near future. But the levee, without Vista Narrows in particular, and the other project elements will cause flooding problems and issues. So if they just build that levee and stop that water from going through there, it will increase the water in the river, cause more problems on the Tumwa side, cause problems at the airport area where the water will come over, and will cause problems at the Rock-McCarran area where more water will come in, and then also cause problems down in the pool there behind Vista Narrows because the water is too backed up. So these all cause problems. And so what we need to do is catch up to GSR at this point. We don't want to let them go too far ahead and then have a permitting problem themselves because we're not doing the other things. And originally we wanted to do this as a core project for this reason, but the core really never would come along with our locally preferred plan. So it leaves us with this quagmire that we have. And so in order to meet this, and I want to just show the problems that this would cause. So with just the GSR levy, which would be right up in here, that there is a real problem in that this would block all this water off and this water coming into the airport, but now it would jump in over here, and then jump to the north, creating more damage on net than is currently going on now. So that, we're changing the status quo here without providing the protection on the other side. And then down here, without Vista Narrows, it would cause more water to get down here, and then we would have more water backing up here, and this could affect the Hidden Valley area, the Rosewood Lakes area, etc. So what we want to do is kind of accelerate what we're doing to avoid these problems, to kind of do the project more in situ with GSR. We don't want to, we're not going to tell GSR, hey, you can't do this. We want to work with them as a partner and help them. So this is a key thing with Vista Narrows. It creates an area, a less inundation in this backwater. And so we don't, we're actually having a net no rise or a slight decrease in water level. Without Vista Narrows, and if you do something with this levee here, you will have problems through here. It will increase the water level. So that's why we need to accelerate our projects, even though we don't have the permitting yet. So the shift in strategy is this. It's to put increased pressure on the cores to increase the permitting turning around, not increase the time, but increase their activities to give us a shorter turnaround. We also need to accelerate the design projects so that we have them ready to go sooner. And that means Vista Narrows final design that we have been waiting for the permit for 5 years now. The Tumwa Levee and Flood Wall project that is, I've talked to Tumwa staff about, and we've been waiting for the permit to initiate that. The airport berm, likewise, we've talked to airport about that, and we've been waiting for the permit. And then the North Bank Levee feasibility and alternatives analysis that we've also been waiting on until the permit. Because of the current climate regarding new grants, we will also consider, we didn't have this all agendized, but we would consider moving forward with property acquisition with Rock-McCarran. So that's all ready to go when we are ready to start building. So what we're trying to do here is accelerate to match what GSR is doing. That is the change in strategy here. And if you look at this is from our capital improvements plan from last year. There's about plus or minus $14 million total in design costs. Now, this might be more like 16 million now or whatever, but right now we have $67 million, and the construction of Vista Narrows is in the range of 45 million for just the terracing. We do have the money to do this. Now, I'm not saying we'd spend 16 million next year. But the point is that we do have the money to start all this design work and do Vista Narrows. So what we're thinking about is going ahead and moving ahead with all these designs so that we're ready to go. Another consideration is that I'm following this fairly carefully, is what's going on with FEMA. Probably a lot of us don't know this, but there is a bipartisan bill to restructure FEMA with a funding formula versus an open grants program. And with that, money will be coming to the states. And so for Nevada to use its money, we got to have projects on the line, flood projects. And so if we have these things more shovel ready, we might be in line to get some of that money for these projects and make sure that Nevada gets its fair share of the formula that it receives as a state. So there's all that going on as well. That's a consideration. So with that, what I guess I'm asking again, and I know I don't do this to you guys very often, but I'm asking for input. Like, is this really a whack idea that I would accelerate like this because of GCR or GSR? Or is this like, yeah, it sounds like you've really got to get forward and get through this, and the permitting, while it's slow, we can't let that stop everything that we're doing. So with that, I'll throw this out to the TAC for questions and comments.
All right, Trina, you've got your hand raised.
Thank you, Janelle. So just a couple things. Obviously, we want to do, of course, we need to do what we can to enable GSR to move forward. My concern is that permitting, and obviously competing interest with that. We cannot allow GSR to do anything until these are addressed. So I appreciate this presentation. I think what would be helpful is to overlay a GSR schedule with a TRFMA schedule and some kind of reality of how this would happen. I appreciate what you're saying, George. We just need to get a bunch of things under design. But my concern is that even if we do, it's kind of not going to work out, or it's going to be problematic anyhow. And so I'd like to see maybe a little bit more on what does this look like? How does it shake out? I completely appreciate applying more pressure on the Corps for Vista Narrows. That has been a long time coming. And also maybe a little bit more on, if you get whatever timeline GSR is, and it seems to me you need the Vista Narrows, you need the Tumwa levee, you need the airport berm, and you need at a minimum Rock-McCarran, and then the north levee to not have the GSR berm cause problems all the way. Like, what are all the elements? The north levee to protect Sparks, all of these other pieces to protect Reno. Those all have to be in place. We've always talked about this project needs to be constructed from the bottom up, right? Because anything you do upstream is going to blow out somewhere else, and we clearly cannot do that. So I guess I'm not 100% what you're asking for the TAC to recommend. Once again, is that to move forward with design?
Yes.
My recommendation would be to provide a little bit more information on how you see this shaking out, overlapping what the GSR, I don't know in my head what the GSR schedule is, but on the surface, all of these projects to occur before what they're looking for seems problematic. I could be wrong.
Well, I mean, yeah, I know you don't have perfect information on GSR, and I got to be careful how far I go with this because they're not agendized for this. So they're not necessarily in the group here listening, and so you got to be careful with that in a public meeting. But I will say this, they do want to start, they're already grading. They're looking at maybe doing the levy in the span of, and I doubt they could do it this fast, but like 26, 27, I'm thinking more like 27, 28. And I do think it is reasonable for us to be able to start construction on Vista at that time span as well.
Well, I think
if
more
we
likely,
get the permit. The permit is all that's stopping us right now.
right, but I'm talking just even logistically of how much work could occur prior to GSR doing their work. And I'm suggesting there may be a possibility that GSR has to have an interim condition because we can't let them do it and create more flooding elsewhere until we're ready to do, until we can reasonably construct all of the improvements to protect existing development from any kind of berm at GSR, what that would cause. Like there might need to be an interim condition and they don't get to build their berm until we have been able to protect everything else downstream.
Yeah, and it would be a FEMA levy, not just a berm, but
Sure.
the issue I see is, yeah, that's your bailiwick, you're the city. My thing is that as a regional flood authority, I'm trying to, I want them to build that levee eventually. I want that, and I want to help them because it does more than just protect GSR. So we're just trying to be cooperative and work alongside them. I think regardless of what the schedule is, we need to push ahead with these designs so we have that flexibility to be able to help. And whether we tell them that they can't, whether the city tells them, hey, you've got, you can cause all these flooding problems because it's kind of like a levee war without the other side participating in the levee war. You're going to have this issue with extra flooding in places that wouldn't have got flooded. And so we got to get this done. And so that creates a, regardless, it really, in my mind, shows us we need to accelerate no matter what. And also this FEMA thing is an issue as well. We would like to be there with a shovel-ready project for FEMA funding to make sure that Nevada gets its share of its formula. So those are some things that I'm looking at that causes me to want to accelerate. I'm not asking the board to accelerate in October. I'm seriously considering asking them to accelerate in November. And I can come back with a little more information and talk with GSR and maybe have them be here and be more participatory so I can talk more in detail about that. So would that satisfy your question for now?
I think that's super helpful. I would like to see more. And I think just for everyone to have a better understanding, I'm wearing my TRFMA TAC hat right now, not City of Reno hat. I think everyone just needs to be aware of what the challenges are and what that schedule might look like and what, if it's even feasible to get ahead of them, or if we should really be coordinating on a different level to make sure that I want GSR to understand that the challenges just as much as the community and how this is all going to work together. And so I think that schedule overlapping would be a good thing. And I know that none of those items are certain. I mean, we start with the core permit, we start with what is GSR schedule. All of those could change, but we have to start somewhere and try and create a plan that we can get ahead of it enough or be able to inform GSR that this is the best we can do and we'll work with you on an interim condition. And maybe the flood project loses a little bit of the input or participation by GSR, but that's balanced with we're not potentially flooding people who wouldn't have been flooded without that levy. So we just have to kind of consider all those things. I appreciate that you're not going to bring it until November because I think just presenting this as what we need to do, I think could use a little bit more vetting. And then, yeah, I'm in agreement with where you're going, George, 100% on acceleration, but I think we need to think through some of the challenges.
Okay, no, that's fair. And like I said, I wasn't planning on doing this. We're going to have another thing here in a few minutes about what's going to be in the meeting. It's not in the meeting for October. So yeah, I'm thinking November. Zach?
I think Mary had her hand up for me.
Oh, Mary?
Go ahead, Mary.
Oh, I was just wondering what the status of their permits are. What GSR's permits, how are they getting their permits before the city does?
Yeah,
I mean, before TRFMA does.
Well, yeah, I know. And I don't think they would get like you would say the city can't, but I don't think they get a 408 or a 404 before we do.
I
You
hate,
know,
I hate to interrupt.
and
you.
that creates a problem.
George,
Okay.
I hate to interrupt here, but I think that discussion is pretty far beyond our agenda
Okay.
item here. I'd advise we stop.
Okay. All right, Zach.
Zach? Yeah,
I had a similar question, so I'll just put my hand down.
okay. Thank you. Trina? Oh, you're muted.
Thank you. Understanding what you're saying, Michael, about being out of agendized here, so recommending that it be added, those considerations to a future item.
I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah.
I would like to hear, actually, I would like to hear from a representative from GSR, if that's possible.
Yeah, and I know there's some in the meeting that are part of the team, but they're not able to speak on this right now. We're gonna have to do some homework with them. But that is, yeah, we want to go as fast as we can to facilitate what they're doing, because that's helping us get this thing done. That's my approach, you know. So anyways, I don't, you know, like I said, it was more like give input to the staff, you just did, that we should come back with something more. And I don't think that has to be you know, it's going to be in the minutes. And I think that we can take that from there for a future TAC meeting.
Agreed.
So we're not gonna have a formal motion for
I don't,
this.
you gave us
Yeah.
input, which is
Yeah.
what we
Yeah.
needed.
Yeah,
And
I
I
don't
think
think
that's good, you know.
Yeah,
If
and
we-
I concur with what Trina and Mary were stating, that I do feel like it would be helpful to have that additional information regarding the GSR's timeline as well. Trina?
Yeah, just a question. Is this item agendized for direction and or just input?
Yes.
Yes, that's
for input.
that's
And
correct.
you've given us some input, really. I mean,
Great, thank you.
Any
Up
other
with a new
comments
motion?
from the TAC?
We do. I don't think we need a motion in this instance. That
Okay.
we've got our direction. Unless someone wants to make a specific motion, I don't think it's necessary. I think we understand the
Okay.
task.
Perfect. And then, is this something that we should open for public comment, Michael?
You certainly may. Yes.
Okay, I will open it to public comment to see if there are any of the public that would like to comment on this item. Seeing none. Okay, so seeing none, I'll close public comment and I will conclude this this item and move on to item 8, which is review and discussion of the Truckee River Flood Management Authority draft Board of Directors meeting agenda for October 10th, 2025. Mr. Wolves.
Yes. So the draft agenda as it currently stands will have the following items for the Board of Directors. They will be reviewing and approving the audit report for the 2024-2025 fiscal year. There will be a discussion similar to what we had today about approving an alternative criteria for the advance of the design of the Rock-McCarran project. Also, there will be some presentation and discussion of a new series of videos that we have been working on, the Know the Flow videos that we'll be putting up on our website soon, and also a proclamation for Nevada Flood Awareness Week will be presented for consideration. So that's the agenda as it stands now.
Thank you, Michael. All right. Moving on to item 9, committee member comments, requests, and future agenda items. I think based upon our discussion on item 7, that request for the additional input from GSR would be helpful to have on the next agenda if possible. And Kathy, you have your hand raised.
Yes, I just wanted to, I'm not sure if this is exactly the appropriate time, but I will not be able to attend the next month's meeting. And I just wanted to, in case there's a quorum issue, just to let staff know. Thanks.
Thank you, Kathy. And Trina.
Sorry, find my unmute button. I just wanted to add to what you just said, Janelle. So not just input from GSR, but sort of if we can look at a plan of how that would work or what our challenges are to move forward with acceleration. So overlaying those schedules and determining, is this even a cost spend possibility? Just sort of a reality check of how is this going to work and how can we best support the GSR through TRFMA and, realize the benefits of them build part of the levy. So not just GSR's input. I think we need to have maybe a bigger discussion around what do we think this looks like?
Yeah, I think you mentioned that already, and I think that's what we would be doing, not just GSR.
Yeah, I was just commenting because of what Janelle just said. So I was just adding to it. Thank you.
Thank you for that addition. Zach.
Yes, related to that GSR update, would it also be possible to have an update from the Corps regarding where the 408 permissions process is at, just so we have an understanding if it's, I guess, missing information on their side of things or our or on the Pistonero side of things? I mean, it'd just be nice to know what the holdup is, if it's due to information gaps.
We can certainly try to get the Corps to be at a meeting like that, but it has been very difficult to engage the Corps in meetings in general. We can try, but I'm doubtful that we would actually pull that off.
Or maybe it's simply a status update of the application. Is that more what you're looking for, Zach?
Yeah, I think, the Corps doesn't necessarily have to attend, but if some sort of communication with them were to occur, just inquiring the status of the 408 and 404 authorizations, and just reporting that to TAC.
Yeah, we can certainly report on that if you want us to. I'm just saying that it might be somewhat unrealistic to get the Corps to commit to a meeting. Usually they'll have meetings about committing to a meeting, and it would take them months to even decide on something like that. So I'm just saying that that's the reality of it. But we can ask. I mean, I don't,
Never hurts to
Perfect.
ask.
Yeah, that's just like what Janelle said.
Thank you, Zach. Kathy, you still have your hand raised. Did you have anything else?
Nope, just
Okay.
didn't
Thanks.
update. Sorry.
Nope, no worries. Anybody else that has comments or requests and future agenda items? Seeing none, we will move on to item 10, public comment. During this comment period, any person is invited to speak on any topic that is not listed as an action item on this agenda. Action may not be taken on any matter raised during this public comment period until the matter is specifically listed on a future agenda. Comment must be made as described above and is limited to 3 minutes per person. Do we have any public comment?
Seeing none.
I see none. And we will move on to item 11, which is adjournment. And we are officially adjourned at high noon. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
See you guys later.